what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a short introduction of what I've been working on. And then I'm going to get into talking about rituals for everybody that we can all do. How's that sound? I'll be sharing the screen. But you know what? Before I do that, hold on one second. So let me just grab this thing for the chat. I'm going to put this over in the chat. So this new book, which I'm very proud to be part of this book of yours, Adam. It's an amazing book. Can everybody see that just fine? Yeah, good. I'm honored not just to have the poem in the book, but that, Adam, that you chose to title the book after the title of the poem, which is Glitter in My Wounds. And I thought that I would start off by reading that poem, but it's also in my new book. So it's in this new book, but it's also in this new book of poems. Oh, I need to make it a little smaller. There we go. Glitter in my wounds. First and most important, dream our missing friends forward. Actually, I want to stop, and just before I say this, the way I position this in my book is right after a poem that I was writing about friends who died of AIDS. So after that poem ends, this one begins. That's those people who you want in the empty chairs. Sorry, I shouldn't have been. Glitter in my wounds. First and most important, dream our missing friends forward. Burn their reflections into empty chairs. We are less bound by time than the clockmaker fears. This morning, all I want is to follow where the stone angels point. Birdsong lashing me to tears. Heterosexuals need to see our suffering, the violent deaths of our friends and lovers. To know glitter on a queer is not to dazzle, but to unsettle the foundation of this murderous culture. Defiant weeds smashing up through cement. You think Oscar Wilde was funny? Well, darling, I think he was busy distracting straight people so they would not kill him. If you knew how many times I have been told, you're not like my gay best friend who tells me jokes and makes me laugh. No, I sure as fuck am not. I have no room in my life to audition for your pansy mascot. You people can't kill me and think you can kill me again? I met a tree in Amsterdam and stood barefoot beside it for 20 minutes, then left, completely restored. Yet another poem not written by a poet. Sometimes we need one muscle to relax so the others follow. My friend Mandy calls after a long shift at the strip club to say, while standing in line for death, I am fanning my hot pussy with your new book. Will you sign it next week, my fearless faggot sister? I want to talk a little bit about how I wrote that poem. That's where I'm going with next. I'm going to talk about the ritual. So this new book comes from a single ritual that took me a few years to get through. So it's this book, Amanda Paradise, and the ritual is called Resurrect Extinct Vibration. What I was doing was I was taking extinct animal recordings, and they had to be recordings from my lifetime. So I'm in my late 50s now, and I wanted it to be creatures that were alive since I've been alive on the planet in this lifetime. And it's a sad thing to report, but there's no shortage of those recordings because we have managed to exterminate 70% of the world's wild creatures in my lifetime. This is according to the World Wildlife Association. they publish a biennial report, which is basically an index that looks through the health of the planet with a heavy study on the life of the animals. And we're down to, we've managed to wipe out 70%. So what I was doing was I was thinking about all this research that I'd been doing with previous rituals, where I was reading about water molecule absorption of sound. And there's nothing on this planet that absorbs sound like water does. And the human body is 70% or higher, 70% or higher water, right? So what I was very fortunate to receive a creative capital grant, and I used that money to fund the ritual. I wanted to do the ritual in all of the 50 states in the United States, because I believe very strongly that the nation that I was born in and where I live, the United States, it's very safe to say that we are probably the most guilty for most of the problems with the environment on this planet in many ways. Not even to leave out the 7 wars that we have been in continuously for the last 20 years in the Middle East. But what I did was I would put these little speakers down by my feet first. I would lie on the ground wherever I was at in the United States, and I would let these sounds of these animals fill my body. I would slowly move them up my body to eventually get to my ears. And then I would write. There were 9 ingredients to this ritual. That's one of them. This is another one of the ingredients. So when I was a teenager in Philadelphia in the 1980s, well, first of all, over half of everybody I knew and loved died of AIDS at that time period. But there was a trans woman named Peppy, and she was a rock. She was this extraordinary, she was like our new age queen. You know, she was about 20 years older than my friends and I. And we would go to her, we would be so stressed out with everything going on, the funerals we were going to, and everything. Anyway, Peppy taught me to work with crystals as a teenager, taught me to read tarot cards. And I dedicate this portion of the ritual to Peppy. So what I did was I took the solid copper water bottles. They're Ayurvedic medicinal bottles. And, you know, what we do know, of course, about copper is that it's highly conductive, right? Plus, you know, if you're thinking about the gods and goddesses, at least of the Greek pantheon, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, that's her metal. If you want, and always remember, Aphrodite is the goddess of love, not fidelity. So, you know, don't be too upset if your new love through Aphrodite just, you know, is only around for a little bit. That's what I wish Sappho had. I mean, I love Sappho's poems, and I just wish Sappho had been devoted to somebody other than just Aphrodite. I think that's why she was so tortured, frankly. Anyway, the first crystal I ever received as a gift was from Peppy. It was amethyst. And both of her parents were Native American. And she was telling me all of these things that she learned from her family members about working with gemstones and herbs. And one of the things that we did was we would sit, she was really into being naked for class. I don't know what that was about, but that was fine. You know, when you're 19, you're just like, all right, whatever. And so we would sit naked back to back with our backs pressing. And she had this huge, beautiful tattoo of the Eye of Horse that spanned her shoulder blades. And I had a dream that evening, and we both had our crystals. She was teaching me how to breathe with the crystal. And we pressed our backs together. And I had a dream that evening that our backs were pressed together so tightly that Peppy's tattoo on her back branded me on the back, like it sort of like burned into my back. So it was such a wonderful dream. But Peppy died of AIDS a few years later after that lesson. So this is for Peppy. I filled these bottles with amethyst, carnelian, and rose quartz. Creativity, the high priestess, the heart chakra. And then pour water in these till about leaving an inch for freezing. Then I buried them in Minneapolis, Memphis, Cheyenne to build the triangle of the grid. And then the seat of the grid where I would go to write, that is Omaha, Nebraska. So the fourth one is here. And then what I would do is, it was so strange burying these because, I don't know. I feel like the United States is just so overwrought with, being afraid of terrorists and everything right now. It's like, here I am burying these crystals and people might think that I'm burying a landmine or a bomb or something. But I would sit here, I would sit in Omaha on top of that bottle and face Minneapolis with a compass, align myself, and then I would eat a tiny bit of dirt from the Minneapolis location and listen to an ambient recording of the location, and then I would write. And then I would turn clockwise to Memphis and do the same thing. Then Cheyenne. I chose Cheyenne for this corner of the triangle because, first of all, it's named after the great Native American people, the Cheyenne people, but also my friend Pepe, who died of AIDS, who introduced me to crystals as a young person. She wanted to visit her sister in Cheyenne before she died, and she never made it. So I thought that would be a great. And then when I was finished, when the book was finished, I took these back to Philadelphia, where we were living. That's over here, Philadelphia, where I was living at the time, where I met Pepe, and then put them on her doorstep where she used to live. I really loved doing this. It was one of my favorite parts. And Minneapolis, I'll be very brief about this part. Minneapolis, I chose Minneapolis because that word, Minneapolis, is a very American word. It takes the Lakota word for water, mini, and it uses it with the Greek word for city. So you get Minneapolis, water city. And then Memphis is named after, Memphis, Tennessee, is named after the much fabled ancient city of Memphis, Egypt. And Memphis, Egypt is right at the mouth of the Nile, taking all that energy from the Nile. And here we have the United States' largest river, the Mississippi, which is here, comes out, and then it hits the middle of this grid. And then, of course, it hits Memphis again. And I think it's fascinating when you stand in Memphis, Tennessee, overlooking the Mississippi River. Somebody in Memphis built a massive glass pyramid right on the shore, like an homage to Egypt or something, I suppose. I don't know. I was also obsessed with the Hypogeum. Are you familiar with Hypogeum? These are these ancient underground structures in Europe. This is one in ancient Crete. They're circular burial chambers with spiral stairs that go down to them. What I love about these, they were used for many different ceremonial reasons, and also to bury the dead. But one of the things that I really loved about Hypogeum was that pregnant women would go down into the Hypogeum to invite her dead ancestors to enter the body of her unborn child so they can have another life. I just love that. And the reason I bring this up is because when I was writing A Man to Paradise, especially when COVID hit, it was impossible for me to not be thinking about the 1980s and the 90s, when so many of my friends were dying of AIDS, and when I was pretty convinced that I was HIV positive, when it turns out that I wasn't. Living that way for that many number of years was so traumatic. And I wanted to bring that into the story of the ritual. And I wanted to contact those people who I dearly loved from the 80s and 90s who died. And I thought, how can I do that? I thought, I know I can't have a Hypogeum, of course, to invite them into an unborn child. I can't even have a child. Even if I did have a womb, I'm in my late 50s. So, but here's the thing. I thought, all right, suppose I create a situation where I'm conjuring all of these lovers and friends who died of AIDS. I thought, well, is there a location that I know that everybody went to? There was no location. Well, how about a movie all of us saw? And there was a movie. There was a movie that all of us saw. It was The Wizard of Oz. So I used The Wizard of Oz as a location device. And this is the scene. I hope you've all seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, but if you haven't, this is the scene where Dorothy has been sent into her opium shamanistic sleep by the so-called Wicked Witch. She's not that bad. And I mean, let's face it, Dorothy kills her sister. You know what I mean? She has a right to be angry about that, you know? And it's like, she I guess she's wicked. I don't know, whatever. But she puts her to sleep. She gives her these poppies to send her into her opium haze. It's at this point in the movie when she wakes up from this dream, this shamanistic phase, everything becomes clear. Everything, all of this path out of suffering becomes clear. The Emerald City is there. So I froze the scene on my computer at this point. And then I got as far away from my computer as I could and watched Sleeping Dorothy with my binoculars. And then I started to say the names of the dead. I would conjure the names of the dead. And it was such a beautiful experience. And that evening, I had a dream that is, without a doubt, the best dream I've ever had in this lifetime. In this dream, I was walking past a church, and it's a church that I know. It's in Lithuania. It's because I've taught in Vilnius. And I was walking on the sidewalk, and this music, this singing was pouring out of the church. And I went into the church, and it was everybody. It was all of them. It was all the people whose names I'd mentioned the night before who died of AIDS. And they were asking how I was doing. They were happy to see me. It was wonderful. All right. I'm not going to talk about all the rituals that I did to do this. Let me finish this portion by reading just a few more poems. So this is the opening poem in the new book. Golden in the morning, crane our necks. In a past life, I was a little fish who cleaned the shells of turtles. A dream helped me remember their deep voice of thanks. Many nights I heard sharks waiting for the tide to draw me near. When the calendar runs out, it feels lucky another awaits. All I have ever wanted was to forge the English language into a spear and drive it into my heart. Between leaping and being shoved. No lonelier place to put my faith for the swinging motion inside the dance we share. Don the extraordinary suit for this ordinary day. Take our time studying trees to imagine the nest we would build if we were birds. I ask all you talented people spending many creative hours perfecting killer drones, guns, and bombs to please know we are waiting for you on the other side of art in the no-kill zone. This one's shaped a little bit like the state of Texas, I think. It's completely not my doing. I didn't really mean to do that. On all fours, I am a seat for the wind. Most of my family's international travel is being sent to war. If we judge love, we can kill off anything, dragged by our hair across the days until they make their way inside our dreams where we get to evict them. I want to thank the one who invented knocking on the door, but no one remembers their name to tattoo across my knuckles. I asked an archaeologist about first time she stuck a shovel in the ground. Her answer had same restorative powers as the gravediggers. When we die, we can no longer wipe the muck off. Just lie there, becoming shit of the world. Eat a chip of your own dried blood. Join me in the cannibal sunshine, fully persuaded by the world through song. Each morning, a blue jay screams at edge of the clear-cut forest. I scream with her at the bleeding stumps, scream inside something borrowed, like ocean, like skin. I want to see before I die a mink wearing a human scarf, skin from a handsome hairy leg. Meow. Somebody recently pointed out to me that mink do not meow. Well, I don't care. I like mink, alive, by the way, not on coat. Okay. Acclimating to discomfort of the system breaking beneath us. I do not take any calls except for the century we are in. When there is no Bible in my hotel room, it makes me sad to have no place to put my filthy poems for future guests. It is important to let them know everyone should burn with abandon as soon as the heat is available. Be a self-styled alarm clock no one can shut off. Be the storm love places in someone's home. Are you sure we can handle this? Because I am absolutely certain. Come on, wind, knock us around. We are a tide that cures ills. Look at us in the mirror. As soon as the invented language enters us, something else will vibrate in our skin. Opening door with teeth of the future to the place where we let the freer feeling go. When you told me you had been looking for me, we pressed through every invisible barrier between us. I watched you gently let the gods know you are ready to win the lottery. There were people from the 19th century alive in my lifetime many years ago. I met some of them. They're all gone now, as we hold on to the side of one another, howling down the velocity of seconds. So I want to just stop a second and just say that when I do these rituals, it's generally the last ritual that I did that inspired the next one. So in this case, I wanted to briefly mention the work that I'm doing now since that book came out. So it's, I don't know, I don't want to give you the name of the new material because I don't really feel like it's right. So let's forget about that. Just ignore that. So I want to tell you, so like the last book, like I was saying, all of those poems that I just read to you were written during this ritual called Resurrect Extinct Vibration. And mostly I was lying on the ground, flooding my body with the sounds of extinct animals. But spending that much time dealing with extinction was very difficult. So I wanted the new work to be, I'm working with animals who are thriving in the Anthropocene, animals who are under the radar of the violence of humanity. And so I worked with crows, coyotes. So let me just share with you what I'm doing now. So let me see if I can get it bigger. There we are. Can you see that? That's all right, right? During lockdown, so I've been living on the road for about 9 years. I left my home 9 years ago and said, I just want to be nomadic, you know, and I travel and I teach and I make it work, you know, I feel lucky that I don't have anybody depending on me, you know, like I don't have children that I would be taking with me on this. It would be more difficult. So I feel lucky to be able to do this. But of course, during lockdown, nobody could be nomadic. And so I was in Seattle, Washington, which has an extraordinary population of crows. In fact, the Bothell campus and University of Washington, just outside of Seattle, they have a crow research center there. And I was on the top floor of this building feeding the crows. I had a little empty hummus container I nailed down. I would put crackers and peanuts and cherries. And this crow that you're looking at really, I don't know, I believe in reincarnation. I do. And I believe that it's possible that I knew this crow in a past life, because this crow eventually allowed me to pet its beak. This crow is bringing me gifts. And these are the gifts that crow brought me. The first gift was this twig. And now I have to be honest, the first time the crow brought me something, I was like, is this, I don't know. I mean, it seems, so the crow would wave it, sit it down, and then knock its beak on the glass to get my attention. And then pick it up and shake it again, then tap the glass, shake it again. And then it picked up a cracker and flew away. I was like, am I imagining things? Well, when the second gift came, it was pretty clear that this is real. Because here you have this tiny, tiny, tiny nub of translucent plastic. And I thought, when did this crow find this? And when did the crow say to themselves, I know exactly who's going to like this? You know, it was such a wonderful, beautiful thing to barter with this crow. The third gift was this little seed, this little berry. And the crow had a hard time parting with that, but they did. I was kind of surprised. I thought, no, I think the crow's going to eat that. I don't think they're going to leave it for me. They're just like, oh, I want that berry. 4, 5, 6, and 7 are seed pods that they thought I needed a lot of. 8 is a linden tree seed, twirly seed pod. 9 is pine bark. Now 10 is cat food. It's just like hard processed cat food. That was, so this was probably the most difficult thing that the crow went through. The crow would pick it up and then sit it down again and look at it with one eye, pick it up, set it down, look at it with the other eye, and be like, oh my God, I love cat food so much. I don't want, I was like, I'm vegan, just take it. I'm not going to eat it. But anyway, they left it for me, which was very sweet. The 12th gift was a piece of gold. Do you see that? It's a piece of gold foil. Now, here's what I want to tell you about number 12. On the evening of the first gift, this twig, I had a dream. And in the dream, my very bossy ex-boyfriend, Christopher, was in the dream, being bossy as usual. And the crow brought me a piece of gold foil, only it was rectangular. But anyway, by the 12th gift, I get this piece of gold foil. It was really lovely. It made me very happy. So this communication and this relationship spurred a lot of poems. But even though we were in the middle of lockdown, I was still applying to artist residencies. And I got into one that I really wanted to get into. It was in Joshua Tree, California, which I did in just a couple months ago. And they asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to feed animals, wild animals. And they said, okay. And they provided lots of food. This is a coyote. And I would put the food around the house at dusk. And the coyotes, the house that I was in that they gave me to live and write in for 2 months was deep in the desert. In fact, you had to drive across sand to get to it. And the coyotes would surround the house at night howling. It was so beautiful. I love those creatures so much. These are the quail in the backyard. Don't they have the most beautiful little hairdos? I just love the quail so much. And they make a wonderful little boop, 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 boop sound when they're running across the sand. Oh, okay. So now this is referred to, this is called the Greater Roadrunner. So this is a roadrunner, but this is the world's largest kind of roadrunner. And this was probably the most violent creature that came to the house. Roadrunners, this is what they look like when they're flying. Aren't they gorgeous? They're just so beautiful. They tried to eat every animal that I was feeding, except the coyotes, of course. This was their favorite animal to eat. They loved trying to kill the chipmunks and eat them. I was always rescuing chipmunks from this bird. This bird is so huge, and it would come running after me when I opened a glass door and slam its beak on the glass door. It was so angry at me for rescuing chipmunks. It looked at me like, don't you know how hungry I am? You know. But this is my favorite creature that I was working with. Oh my God. I love these creatures. So this is the kangaroo rat. Now, the kangaroo rats are very specific to Joshua Tree, to the Mojave Desert and Southern California, and even down, I think they even go down into New Mexico, Arizona, and possibly Texas. They have these little T-Rex front arms that they hold their seeds to eat with. Then they have these powerful, hind legs where they leap across the sand. I loved feeding them in the evening. Here's what I wanted to say. Quail. The Roadrunner was my spine. Ankles, everything, knees. I had a dream that I was breastfeeding a kangaroo rat. And so the kangaroo rat got my left nipple for this. Why not? The other part of this ritual is I watch the sunrise in the morning. And then at some point during the day, I watch the sunrise on another part of the planet on a webcam, an outdoor webcam. This is the one in Istanbul that I really like a lot. This one's fantastic. This is the Tokyo rail yards. When the sun rises in Tokyo here, it comes right over here and it just splashes across all these glass on these buildings. It's quite wonderful. And this one, the one in Tokyo, has an excellent microphone. You can hear all the people talking on the street. This is one in Prague that I like to watch the sunrise. And then this is one in, it's the Namib Desert Lodge. That one, I'm always hoping to see a creature at this little watering hole. And so far, it just looks like that. You see all the footprints around it where everybody was coming to drink, but I never managed to see a creature. So now let me finish this with just a handful of these poems, these newer poems from the new work. They're all small. They all stand on the bottom of the page like they're little creatures, little people. Our little places within are not dungeons, remember. Astronomers point satellites into space. The military points them down at us. The inverse relationship between love we offer and what we give. This on and off button is another opportunity to believe there are only two choices. This too must end. Part of this forest tastes like the man I love, with an actual number of nails holding the bedroom together. Other days when we died where we fell, we became the forest. My car never intended to be a meat grinder, another face going under the waves. We felt awful after hitting the deer. We made love and slept with one of his antlers between us. Do you like your species is my latest questionnaire. Meet me at the quarry where Michelangelo conjured David. Your inferno is my paradise, adjusting for the emotions of machines, reaching for a spirit shining in the trees, every cell singing the ghost of we shall rise again. If you call this planet evil one more time, I will have to learn to hold you better. Just two more. These are very new. This one's the newest one. This is one that I just finished this morning. At least I think it's finished. Battle cry connects bodies at a critical moment, while love reveals the art of pliability. Before and after, never so visceral. Sing happy birthday while harvesting organs. Sing happy birthday while stitching them into their new body. Learn to accept the unanticipated wonder for your hand when the moon reaches back. I think it's finished. This is the last one I'm going to share. Everything falls with the tree. Something about the man in the pin holding the butterfly down. Dear reluctant sleeper, we are supposed to be used to sleep by now. Each night, we question where we are going, why we have to go, a stick in the air to poke a hole in the wind. Our planet is lighter with every astronaut shot into space. Goodbye, Elon Musk. Jolted alive in the catapult of ritual. Roll the world's barbed wire into one ball. Good morning. Glad we are back. So there we are. So the numbers went down. We were over 200 and now we're under 200. I guess I bored a few people. Oh, well, that's always going to happen. Just laugh and just keep going. So here's the thing. I wanted to make it clear that these are not somatic poetry rituals, okay? They are for me when I'm using them, but they're not just for writing poetry. So I teach many workshops for poets, but I also teach visual artists. In fact, this past fall was my 12th year teaching at the Sandberg Art Institute in Amsterdam. No poets there. Well, actually, there was a poet there this last year, which was nice. But usually there's no poets and they don't want to even hear about poetry. So fair enough. I don't understand that. So, but these are somatic rituals. And I want to talk about 9 rituals that all of us can do today, this evening, tomorrow morning, for our whatever creative things we want to do. But before I do that, I wanted to say, I wanted to give you this link. So this link at the top. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me grab the link again. I'm copying and pasting here. Yeah. My copying and pasting skills are not so great. Hold on. Okay, so the top link that says Somatic Rituals 3 Basics, please click on that link now and save it for later. That's just some tips for you on how, like if you're going to write a poem, for instance, using this is how to take the notes for that. If that makes sense. But also, it could give you ideas on what you can do for visual art because, you know, there's so many possibilities. Where is my little notes for myself here? Okay, good. All right. If there are any questions before I start this, please put them in the chat. In fact, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be here. Oh, what was the 11th? Oh, thank you. Somebody named Virginia. I skipped number 11. How did I do that? Oh my God. The 11th gift. Here, I'm going to share the screen again so I can show you the 11th gift. Yeah. How thoughtless of me. That crow brought me this gift and I completely ignored it. Here we are. Okay. The 11th gift is this teeny tiny little, I'm glad, Virginia, you brought this up because it was this little green pod and it was right at the absolute tip of their beak when they were flying toward me and the sunlight was hitting just the green and it looked like a little glowing green bouquet. It was really quite lovely. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Ritual number 1. You don't really need me to put the number over there, but I like doing it. I know, I like seeing the number in the chat. First one, let's call it this. Let's call it this. Let me just write this over here. Fruit infusion. So remember earlier when I was talking about when I was working with the extinct animal sounds and that I was not privileging my ears for hearing those sounds, meaning that like our entire bodies absorb music because we're made of water, you know? And so, you know, you're deeply affected throughout your entire body by what you're hearing. And so, but while we are 70% water, carrots and apples and cherries and rutabagas and turnips are 90%, they're almost drowning. There's so much water. They're like 90 to 95% water. So here's what I would like you to do. By the way, I see a friend of mine here from Texas, Christine Olenichik. Hi, Christine. In fact, I was in Marfa, Texas, where Christine lives, doing the ritual when I did this for the very first. I knew what I did the first time. I was in Marfa, Texas, for the Lannan Foundation. They had brought me, and speakers, stereo speakers in either side of the bowl, and speakers and the food up. And then I covered up that with a blanket, sheets, towels, pillows, a comforter to seal the sound in. And then I cranked the volume all the way up. And I blasted a song into the food. I did that every single day, every morning. My little sound kit pretty loud, you know, but I sealed all that sound in. But I wanted it to get into the food. And the song that I chose, oh, would you like to see it? Here, you know what? Give me 1 second. I know how to find this. Just give me 1 second. Yes, I'm a witch. Here it is. It's the Yoko Ono song that I wanted to be in my food every day. I didn't have this prepared because I didn't think, I don't know, I just wasn't thinking about it. And let me just say, yes, I want you to have the song for later. Yes, I'm a witch. Come on, you. It usually comes right up. There it is. I found it.
It's a great day to help people customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Oh my God, there was an ad there. Sorry you had to hear that. Some kind of insurance ad. Okay, here it is. It's the Yoko Ono song, Yes, I'm a Witch. And are you familiar with this song? So she wrote the song. All right, I'm gonna just say this. I know that there are some people from England here. And anyway, I was in England a few years ago and I brought this up on stage and people started walking out. They were so mad at me. Because they just get, anyway, I was like, I did this with Yoko Ono and somebody in the audience said, she ruined the Beatles. And I said, no, Yoko Ono rescued the Beatles. Look, sir, at the year that John and Yoko met, and then look at the music that they were performing before they met and after they met. Trust me. The biggest secret in 20th century music is that Yoko Ono is a band called the Beatles. That's my belief. Those members singing I Want to Hold Your Hand when they met her. There's no way they went from that to I Am the Walrus on their own. No. Anyway, I love Yoko Ono. And I just hate the way Paul has abused her for decades. He was in an interview calling her a witch and a bitch. Yeah. So, but in typical Yoko Ono power fashion, she decided to turn that into a song. And the song goes like this. Yes, I'm a witch. Yes, I'm a bitch. I don't care what you say. Each time we don't say what we want to say, we're dying. That's why I want you to have that song. It's a good song. Anyway, here's what I want us to do. Go to your refrigerator and try to, make a whole ritual around that refrigerator. If you're a visual artist and maybe you're going to sketch instead of take notes for a poem, but maybe you're going to want to write a poem. I don't know what you want to do, but begin at the refrigerator. I think having a relationship with that box is very important because the refrigerator houses your body before it is your body. Your future body is in there. Now get the food out, get an apple, get a carrot, get a cherry, get a grape. Grapes are amazing to use because they're small, compact, ritual ingredients. And then I want you to choose a song, or maybe you want to use a recording. I don't know, maybe you have your favorite message a friend left to you on your voicemail and you want to play that over and over again into the fruit. Whatever you do, what I want you to do is to get a piece of fruit or vegetable and put it on a table or on the floor, and then put speakers or maybe, whatever you listen to music on next to it, blast the music into it. And then while you are eating that piece of food, slowly, thinking about this in a sort of macrobiotic principle, right? Like Franz Kafka, the writer Franz Kafka. Now, he was not macrobiotic, of course, but he followed the Essenes, which is this like culture of eating. So Franz Kafka believed in chewing his food 36 times, each mouthful of food. The idea of this is that when you chew your food 36 times, you're fully extracting all the nutrients from the food before it gets down into your stomach. So your saliva. So 36 is the key magic number. It's good to chew it slowly and mindfully while you're taking your notes or sketching. It's really exciting to eat a song. And okay, now think of this too. After you're finished eating the song, or whatever the recording was, if it's not a song, wait, after you're finished doing your writing or sketching, sit down for another 15 minutes later and do it again. Because now the song is deep in your digestive tract and it's really starting to digest the song. Plus, when you consume a song, the part of your body that takes on those nutrients now has a song in it. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see, number 2. Oh yeah, okay, number 2. Let's just say washing. Number 2. I know this is going to sound odd, what I'm going to ask you to do, but trust me, it works. It has, it's got some potency. This is based on research on the brain that I was reading about how memories are formed. But beyond that, how practice makes perfect takes shape inside of us, like what exactly that is. And so what I'm asking you to do is go into the kitchen for this ritual. Oh, actually, first, if you're going to be writing notes for a poem or sketching or whatever you're going to be doing, have that waiting at another room at a table, because I find that this is most effective when you do this in the kitchen and then leave the kitchen and then sit down and do your work. It doesn't seem to work as well, at least not for me. You know what? I actually think you should try everything. Try it there, try it somewhere else, because maybe it'll work differently for you. There are no There are no hard set rules for any of these. But you go to the kitchen, you go to your cupboard, and you get a clean plate out of the cupboard. And then you wash the plate, you rinse the plate, you dry the plate, and then you put it away again. And then you go out into that other room and sit down and write. Why I'm asking you to do this. Okay, so there's this fascinating piece of research on the human brain that it involved, part of which involved a case study using people who play violin professionally. These are people who've been playing violin since they were little children, and now they're in professional orchestras traveling. They took brain scans of these people, and they share on the surface of their brains a horseshoe-shaped configuration. That is the first time in human history that we have evidence of what practice makes perfect looks like. So what this means is that the brain gets tired of moving, especially to play the violin. I don't know how to play the violin, so I Googled how to play the violin, and it says it's very difficult. I want you to know that when you Google it. But basically the idea is that when you're standing there, everything you have to do to learn to play the violin, like how you stand, how you hold the instrument, your brain gets tired of all of this information. So it encapsulates it. You see, it takes all the maneuvers you're doing over and over and over, and then finally just puts them in one location in your brain. You've heard the term muscle memory. Maybe you've heard this term. I like that term. I use it myself, but it's technically not a muscle so much as like a computer file. It's more, it's more like that. So that's what that horseshoe-shaped configuration is. That's where they go to play the violin. You just eventually, when you do it over and over again, you just know how to do it. So whatever that file is in your brain for washing dishes, because that's the thing, we have literally hundreds of thousands of these files, right? All over our brain. When you're washing the dish completely and rinsing it and drying it and then putting it away, you open up that file to do it. And it's kind of awkward and wonderful because you're doing it without needing to do it. It might be the first time you've been washing a dish and rinsing it and drying it and putting it away without needing to do so. So it's a strange experience, but you open up the file. And when you go sit down to write, it's circulating in your consciousness now. That file's open. It's a very interesting thing to try. All right, I need to close some of these windows so I can find my notes. Number 3. Okay, well, now number 3 is basically it's more washing. But it's more like this. We'll just say it's 2.0 washing. So in this case, I would like you to go again, if you're writing or sketching or sculpt, whatever it is you're going to be doing with the ritual, have that waiting in a different room. Okay. Then I want you to go into the bathroom and, get naked, undress, get in the shower, but do not turn on the water. So we're going a different route this time. You're not actually going to go through the process. You're just going to stand there with the water off and stare at your dry implements, your loofah, your shower, shampoo, your soap, your rubber ducky, whatever you've got going on in there. And then close your eyes and stand very still with your eyes closed and just run through in your imagination the way you take a shower. What is the first thing you wash? What do you do first? What kind of soap do you use? Like, just see it all in your imagination. Go through the entire experience that you normally do, but only in your imagination. Never turn the water on. Then step out of the shower and get a towel, even though you're dry, vigorously dry yourself off, even as though you're wet. That might sound a little strange, but I like this part. It kind of gets your body ready in a new way for what happens next. Then get dressed and go out and sit down and write or whatever you're going to do. I find that adding that bit at the end where you're drying your dry body prepares you for what comes afterwards, the writing. Oh, that's wonderful. Jess, you got a violin. Sorry, I'm trying to keep touch with all the stuff in the chat. And oh, Matthew has to leave. Thank you. It's nice seeing you. Why the plate and the washing, or could it be any of the ordinary processes? Poppy asked a question. Why the plate and the washing, or could it be any out of the ordinary processes? Yes. Again, I'm glad you asked that, Poppy. I'm really glad you asked that because, again, please know that there are no real rules to any of this. Yeah, these are things that I've been doing that have been really fascinating to me to see how the language comes out. Here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Poppy, because here's an opportunity for me to say this. When I change a ritual or add on to a ritual, the writing changes. It changes the way, it alters the language as it comes out of you. Now, where are we at here? Okay, so we did the shower. All right, so here we go. This is number 4. This one is a little complicated, so I'll go through it slowly. Oh, I meant to bring a glass. Oh, that's okay. You can imagine I have a glass. How's that? I meant to have a prop with me. So what you're gonna need 2 things. You're gonna need a drinking, you're gonna need 3 things. You're gonna need a drinking glass, preferably a clear pint glass, and a black magic marker. And you're gonna mark the middle of the glass with the magic marker. Make it so that it's defined so that you don't have to squint to see it. You don't want to, you don't want to be concerned about these things, okay? You just want to be able to see that mark on the glass, right? And the third thing you're going to need is a pitcher of water or whatever, a bottle of water, whatever, something that has water in it. Then let me explain this to you. So pretend my hands, you see my hands here? Pretend my hands are a table. I put my chin at the edge of the table. Here's the drinking glass, right? And here's I'm pouring the water. So I would pour the water. And now as I'm pouring the water to the mark in the middle of the glass, I'm watching and listening. I'm listening just as hard as I am watching, because this is the braiding of the senses. I am addicted to braiding my senses to try to get one sense to do the work of another sense. It's one of my favorite things to do. So like to get the body to do all these different things that it wasn't asked to do, but it can. So you pour the water to the mark, do that 3 times, watching and listening. And on the 4th time, close your eyes and do it with your eyes closed. You will be amazed. All it takes is 3 times for your eyes to train your ears to do this. At least this for me, it only takes 3 times. But the real goal of this one is to turn your ears all the way up. So this is a way of really tuning your ears, getting your ears tuned in. See, so by using your eyes and your ears together, it gets your ears all the way up. As soon as you're finished, by the way, do this sitting down at the table, have your notebook, whatever, just right there. So you don't have to think about anything. Just have everything there. This at the chin on the edge of the table. As soon as you're finished, you just sit back in your chair and close your eyes. And then just start to listen. to every sound that's in the room, and then every sound that's in the building, and start to hear the sounds outside the building. And when you think you've heard all of the sounds, still remain there. Do not move. Stay there. Because what I have found out is that the longer you do this, the more you hear layers and layers and layers beyond that you didn't think you'd be able to hear. Then begin writing, doing things. How is everybody? Is this okay? You're enjoying doing this? We've got this. 5. By the way, this one, the color correspondence, the first time I did this one was also when I met Christina Lenichik in Marfa, Texas. This is a lot of fun to do. It's the grocery store. You go to the grocery store. This is a grocery store ritual. I've got a bunch of grocery store rituals. One of them where I was reading tarot cards to the meat in the meat section. It turns out you're not allowed to do that. Who knew? You don't know these things until you try them, you know. You get thrown out. But you can at least find something out from the meat, from the tarot cards a little bit before they throw you out. But I'm not going to ask you to do that. This is about color correspondence. So what I'm asking you to do is, I really love magnifying glasses and microscopes, telescopes, binoculars. And in this case, I would like you to have a magnifying glass, if you have one. If not, you don't really need it. You don't really need it, but I think it's nice. It's nice to have it. And what you do is you go to the grocery store, and then you look for a color outside the grocery store. And then you carefully study that color. In Marfa, Texas, there's a grocery store. So there's this kind of like fancy little small grocery store that had a lot of like, it's called the Get Go. I think that's what it's called. And it has, it's nice, but it's more on the expensive side, and it's more like natural things like Whole Foods. So it's like earth tones. No, you need the regular grocery store for this. Trust me. So there's another grocery store down across from the Dairy Queen in Marfa down the street. I like that grocery store. It's a real grocery store. Well, they're all real grocery stores, but you know what I mean. And it has all the labels with all. So I found, for instance, here's an example. One day at the grocery store, I found a piece of neon blue chewing gum that somebody spit out of their mouth onto the black parking lot, you know, the tarmac, the macadam. And I was studying it with my magnifying glass. And I went into the grocery store. Then what you do is you go into the grocery store and you look for that color on a label. Well, I found that color that day on a box of cereal. A cereal called Lucky Charms. They have a blue half moon marshmallow and blue half moon marshmallow, you know, neon blue. It's I guarantee you, it is the same poisonous food dye from whatever DuPont, Dow Chemical, whoever's making this crap. So, but it's fascinating because what this does is, I know this sounds like a strange thing to ask you to do, but when you go looking for colors like that, you begin to intersect temperature, temperature with feelings, all kinds of things start to come together inside of you when you're doing this. I like it. Okay, here's number 6. Number 6. Well, I mean, I call it that. I don't know if that's the right thing to call it, but here's what I'm asking you to do. You remember how I was saying earlier with my latest ritual that in Joshua Tree in the desert, I was relocating those animal sounds in my body? Well, in this case, what I'm going to ask you to do is to relocate your behavior in your body. So the toes, our toes, like our fingers can move in and out very easily, right? But our toes, when our toes move like this, our toes are designed to balance us while we're walking. That's one of the things that they're designed to do. Yes. Okay. But here's the thing, and then release them. Our toes don't normally do that unless we do it deliberately. I would like us to think about begin in the morning. Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me okay? I know there was like an internet snafu. Oh, can I repeat? Couldn't hear the last few sentences. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Oh, I'm sorry. So, okay. I'm not sure what part you couldn't hear. So let me just say this. Let me just go back to going back. So the toes, when you crunch them, they don't ordinarily do that unless you do it on purpose, which is what I want you to do when you're not being yourself. In other words, if you are, because you can't just walk around saying fuck, fuck, fuck all day long, right? Or, nobody will want you around. There are a lot of things we do to get by in this world, so you don't do that. You'll have a very small peer group if you do that. But I'm sure you'll find somebody who will like that you say that all day long, but not too many. But in other words, so there are many opportunities for this throughout the day where we're not authentically being ourselves, is my point. Like, suppose you want to say fuck, but you don't because there's a child in the room or whatever, And so that's when you crunch your toes and hold it. Do that all day long when you are compromising, when you lie to your partner, your life partner, whatever, because, compromise, the pliability of love. It's the pliability of love. It's not lying. There you go. All right. So how does that sound? Relocating your own behavior in your body physically. Then at the end of the day, you're going to really be nice to your feet. You're going to like see all the toes and like massage them, give them a nice, put them in warm water. Now, if you're writing a poem, for instance, doing this, you can be doing it while your feet are soaking. You can do it. There's so many opportunities. You can do it throughout anytime you want. Okay, here we go. Now this one has a video. Number 7 has a video. I don't know. I don't think you need a warning so much, but that's kind of the case. Here it is. Number 7 is a video. So I'd like you to please click on that video now so that you can have it later. If you're familiar with the history of dance, Mary Wigman was a dancer from the early 1920s. She was a student of Le Bon's in Paris. So this is what I have to say about this dance. This is very simple. This ritual is basically getting on the floor and doing this dance with Mary Wigman. Now, here's the thing about this. It's called the witch dance. And so I heard an interview with her. I mean, I don't know what year the interview was recorded, actually. But in that interview, she talks about this dance and how it was choreographed. When she was a young person, she became very depressed, in fact, was suicidal, and went back to the house where she grew up, her family home. And she locked herself away for 2 weeks in her old room. One day, she found herself on the floor, pounding her feet around in a circle. And when she was finished with this dance, she felt so completely different. And she was never depressed like that again, ever again, after the dance. And she left that room. Now, the muscle that is connecting our kneecaps to the back of our spine, in fact, those two muscles, they go to our knees and then they meet at our spinal cord and they wrap around one another like this. It's called the psoas muscle. That muscle is very deep. It's against the bone. It's hard to even massage that muscle. That is the muscle of trauma. That is the muscle that contracts our bodies to protect us. You know, if your knees shake when you're really nervous, that's the psoas muscle. That's the job of, that's what they're doing. They're pulling you in. All the other creatures on this planet know to release it, to shake it out. But we have reason. With reason comes denial. This is not happening. This is not happening. This is not happening when it very much is happening. I believe that Mary Wigman created the first deliberate choreographed dance to release trauma from the body in the 1920s. That's what I think. I absolutely love that dance. It's so much fun. Okay. Just two more. How's that? Just two more. Oliver, you said your left psoas muscle is tight. Yeah, dance. Do some dancing, Oliver. Do some thrash dancing. Get that leg kicking up in the air. Yeah, good dance. You know, dancing always improves art. I mean, my God. Number 8 is the haptics. So, okay, let me put this name over here for you, Stephen. Wait, maybe where's his website? Let me just see if I can find his website. Stephen. Oh dear. I don't know if I have it. Okay, so Stephen Vincent. I can't seem to find it right now. I meant to get this ahead of time. I'm sorry that I didn't. I'm sorry. Anyway, you can find his website pretty easily. Oh wait, I think I just found it. Did I just find it? I did. Never mind. I found it. Okay, here we go. Now you don't have to look for it. I meant to get this ahead of time. So Stephen Vincent, I'm putting him over here because Stephen is, well, the person who taught me how to do this. So about a decade ago, Stephen lives in San Francisco, and he's a Bay Area poet. He's, I guess, maybe a decade older than me. Anyway, I was on stage at the San Francisco Public Library giving a performance. He's in the front row, and he has his notebook, and he's got his pen in his hand, and he's and his pen's in his hand, like in his fist. And he's making, and it's down at his belly button, it's in his lap, and he's making a drawing, but he's not looking down at it. He's looking at me up on stage the whole time. He's making this drawing the entire time. And I was confused, like, what the hell is Stephen doing, you know? And then he shows me, and at the end, he takes his drawing and he photographs it with his phone. He signs it, dates it, photographs it, puts it up on his website I just gave you, and he gives you the original. So what that is, that drawing, he uses his body as an occult tool. He's using his body as a seismograph machine. He's basically letting your performance go into him and then come out again onto the paper. See? So he's creating this drawing. Now, what I would like you to do is to do your own drawing with yourself in the bathroom, at the mirror in your bathroom. So here's what I would like you to do. You know, I have to tell you, it's really important that you hold the pen like this. If you hold the pen like this, your brain automatically thinks you're writing letters. And you can't stop it. You got to hold your hand like you're a 2-year-old with a crayon. Okay. That's how you do it. Have the notebook have the page open, have it resting on, have your pen, have it resting on the surface of the paper, and then get this close to your eyes, to the mirror, I mean. That's, and then stare into your own eyes in the mirror until you see a reflection of yourself in your eyeball. Then begin making your drawing, but don't look down at it. When you look down at it, it kind of ruins the whole thing. It's sort of like dispel. It ruins it. It's like it breaks the spell, So just make the drawing for a couple minutes. Don't think about the drawing, just make it. Continue to stare into your own eyes. I think it's kind of nice to do this with another person where you stare into one another's eyes while you're doing it. But then what I want you to do is to take your index finger. Who is this who does this? Jess is asking. Oh, Stephen Vincent, his website. Now, Stephen doesn't do this. Here, I'll put the website over here again. Stephen doesn't do this. Stephen does what I said he was doing. So what Stephen does is he goes to poetry readings and he'll make a drawing from the poetry reading. But what I'm asking you to do is to make from your own energy. What you do is you go into the back. It just says an internet connection unstable. I hope you can all see me. You can all see me. Okay, good. The Zoom world. Okay. Sorry, this one's just so long. Sorry, I don't mean for it to be so long. So you've got your drawing. Okay? You've got your little scratchy drawing you've made. Now, what I want you to do, does that make sense what I'm asking you to do? You have the notebook down by your belly button. You're making the drawing while staring into your eyes. Okay, good. Then you're going to take your drawing and you're going to look at it. So I'm right-handed, so I would hold it with my left hand and look at it. Then with my my right index finger, I wet it in the sink and I draw it on my forehead. The drawing. You see what I'm asking you to do? I'm asking you to get this information from your eyes out of you onto the paper and to put it back into your body in a new location. And with water, meaning that when you're finished doing that and you begin writing or sketching or whatever you're doing to make art or poetry, while you're doing your notes for your poem, this is slowly evaporating. The residual haunting. Don't we all love residual hauntings? Who knows, right? Okay. Does that make sense? Number 8. It works. It really works. Okay, the last one. And then if anybody has any questions, go for a walk and have a recording device with you. Everybody has these phones, these fancy phones you can record yourself on, right? Or a digital recording, whatever you can do to record yourself. Stop 3 times on the walk. If you've got binoculars, that would be great. And if you've got a magnifying glass, that'd be great. I think poets should have telescopes and all these things. I want you to stop, and 3 times you're going to record yourself narrating a 360-degree, just literally look around 360 degrees all the way around, narrating exactly what you see. Perfunctory, just very, there is a cat walking across the roof of a building across the street. There is a flat tire on the car over here. There is a soup can, whatever you're seeing, I don't know. There's a green door on this building. Just whatever it is you see. Then find one object that you narrate specifically, that you go up to with your magnifying glass and really look at it and say, I don't know why this gum wrapper is in the mud, but it's been here for a couple months, it looks like. I don't know. Now, here's why I ask you to do this. Then you go home and then get into the darkest place. Like maybe you need to go under your bed, go into a closet, whatever you need to do. Shut the lights off. And just listen to the recording with your eyes closed. And what's going to happen is when you get to all of these things that you were seeing and narrating, your brain's going to open all that up. When you get to the piece, when you get to the object that you were specifically studying closely, I would like you to please consider asking yourself why I saw this thing. Like, why was that the thing I wanted to focus on? Then, light a candle or turn on a flashlight and begin writing or sketching, sculpting. There. I wanted to give you 9. And again, these 9 ritual ingredients, they're, if you don't like the way they're going, change it, make it better. They can always be improved. Well, thank you all for coming. If there are any questions, please put them in the chat now. And I wanted to thank Adam and everybody at MacBooks who made this possible. Thank you all very much. Is there a question? Oh, I have a question. Oh, I just saw it go by. Let me go back and find that question. I have a question for ritual number 5. Peter and Sophie said, okay, could you please tell me that question? I would love to hear it. Let me see. What was number 5, by the way? Number 5 was color correspondence. That one? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We've been unmuted. So when you find the color with your magnifying glass in the supermarket and you match it to the color outside, what do? That's it. You just hold both in your head and compare them.
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't finish that. I'm so glad you brought this up. Thank you. Well, it's like a nice celebration when you find a color. First of all, you're like, oh my God, there's that color. And then you begin working. So I just stand in place right there and start writing. It's like the whole idea was to intersect the temperature and all these things together with this color, and then just allow the process to run through me. I hope that makes sense.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. Are there any questions? Do you think of the content of the material? Okay, somebody named Luca Venter asks, CA, do you think of the content of the material you generate in writing making as relating directly to the actions of the ritual in every case? Or is it more a matter of putting your mind in the space to make, do, right more generally? That's a good question. I've never been asked that. Let's see. Oh, I think you're asking if I'm thinking about the writing. Is that what it is while I'm doing it? I am so glad you asked that. The answer is no. In fact, you know what? Let me give you all this link again, because in this link, that top link in particular has the material that explains that. So here's the thing. It's really important. I'm so glad you brought that up. Here. The fact of the matter is, the writing is absolutely only influenced by the ritual's experience. Does that make sense? In other words, this is definitely not expository writing in any way at all. Like, I am never writing about what I'm doing. I do that in a piece of prose text for the book later to explain what I did, but that's the only time I ever talk about what I'm doing. But when it comes to the writing, in fact, I'm glad you asked that question, because this is what I want to say. If my mind, so here's the thing. We all have these internal editors, right? And we've been developing these editors our entire lives, since we've been breastfeeding, because these editors are the ones that say, this is how you get what you want. This is how you speak. This is how you write a letter. This is syntax. This is punctuation. Those editors get in the way for the raw language. So when I'm taking the notes for the poem, as soon as my mind begins to travel down a full sentence, a full coherent thought, I write faster, because that is the evidence that I need that the editor is awake. The editor is very valuable. We need those editors later on. But at the beginning, for the notes, the raw magical notes that we need, you've got to get ahead of the editor. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Speaking of editing, do you use any or different rituals for the editing processes? Thank you. I'm glad you asked that as well, Hannah. And again, that link, the top one, I should say, that has, there are 3 parts to that. The third part talks about how you turn all those notes into a poem. And in that is another ritual for the editing process that I like to use. It's this where you close your eyes and type first. It's explained in there. But yes, as a matter of fact, yes. And you know what? You can use rituals for anything that you want, actually. The editing. You can write a ritual for ripping the poem up you just wrote if you want, Possibility for everything. How do you find rituals? There's such gems, a ritual, find rituals. Oh, thank you. The thing is, these rituals, once you begin doing them, well, let me explain to you the first one that I did. So I began doing these rituals, and I never did explain this about why I do the rituals. Do you want me to explain why I do the rituals? I can't believe I forgot to tell you this. So I started writing poetry in 1975. But in 2005, I had all these new friends who were in creative writing programs at universities for MFAs, and they had very different relationships between the lives they were living and the work they were producing. I didn't know why that was so different for them. And I thought, there's got to be a reason. There's a reason for everything, right? I realized eventually that it is our backgrounds. These new friends I were making, their parents, the people who raised them, were doctors and lawyers, engineers, white collar workers. My people who I came from, they're working class, they're factory workers. So here's the thing. This was the solution. This was the reason for everything. So here, let me explain to you. When my family members go to work at the factory, they, yes, I'm sorry, Liv. This will be the end. I was just told we need to end. So, so this is the end, and then we got to go. Where was I? So when my family goes to work in the factory for 12 hours, because nobody's working 8 hours in America, they're all working 12-hour shifts now. So when you go to work for 12 hours, you become an extension of that machine. When you become an extension of a machine for 12 hours a day, how many hours are there in a day? 24. Capitalism is literally stealing half of a day. You got to get your sleeping in there and living, the rest of the day. Unbelievable. I hate this world sometimes when I think about what capitalism has done to it. No, I don't hate the world. I hate what capitalism has done to the world. It's violent. And it's a terrible idea for a planet. Jobs. Stupid. We've got to get a better idea. Everybody's got jobs to do. Like, how about we figure out something else? There's got to be something. Okay, so what happens is when you're at work at the factory and you're standing by this fucking machine all day, in order to survive this, to not be destroyed by this job, your brain has to shut the present off. And your mind, as you're working, lives in the default systems of the past and the future. But when you go home, you can't flip the switch to get the present back because you're so ingrained in the past and the future. My family doesn't understand the present, and it's not their fault. But I learned this tool that they created, this coping mechanism, as a child, as children will do. We learn things, right? So I realized that I needed to develop a new relationship with time as a working class person in order to do this. I wanted a new relationship with time. So what these rituals did was they anchored me in the present. Now, very briefly, the first rituals I did, I ate a single color food a day for 7 days. And I would wear the color. So I found this red wig in a dumpster behind a beauty academy, a long red wig. So I ate red food every day. The first poem was eating red food, wearing this long red wig. And I learned 2 things at the end of that day. One, it worked. I was present. I had never been more present in my life, I believe, writing. Doing strange things that you wouldn't normally do keep you present. The second thing I realized was that there's no way I would have ever written that poem for any other reason at any other point in my life, meaning that the ritual created the poem. Yes, the world around us is constantly giving us what we need to be artists. All day long, we can be creating. Well, thank you all. I'm sorry that this went a little over, and I really appreciate everybody who came. Adam, thank you so much. I'm proud of being part of the book. And thank you, Jess, Liv.
Thank you